We couldn't do this without businesses, and that's one of the reasons MEC in 1949 was formed, was to give businesses a voice at the state capitol. We needed to make sure that their issues were heard, that we have a climate that doesn't require a lot of overburden with regulation. We have a fair tax climate. We have initiatives in place to make businesses want to stay here and grow their businesses and attract new businesses to the state. And that's really the major objective that MEC focuses on. And we know that all begins with education and workforce development so that we have that strong workforce, that skilled workforce, the jobs that are coming here.
Mississippi oftentimes has been at the lead in creating educational opportunities. And in fact, in 1818, the legislature chartered a pioneer women's college, the Elizabeth Female Academy in Washington and Adams County. And then they followed that up in 1884 by establishing the MUW in Columbus, which was the first state college for women in the United States. So there's a history there that we can be a leader. And Mississippi also had the first planned community college system in the country, and that system today is still one of the leaders when it comes to training our youth for the jobs of the future. But not only that, providing the type of workforce training that's needed for all of our citizens to be successful here in Mississippi. Our next speaker this morning is Attorney General Jim Hood. General Hood takes protecting the safety of Mississippi's most vulnerable citizens very seriously, and that is our children and the elderly. He founded the nation's leading cyber crime unit and created incentives to prevent workforce and school violence. Based in the Attorney General's office, the Cyber Crime Fusion Center is the hub from which the state, federal, and local agencies investigate and prosecute internet predators and who target children and vulnerable adults. He continues to work to implement new programs to expand the successful initiatives of protecting Mississippians. He is now serving in his fourth term as Attorney General. Please join me in welcoming Attorney General Jim Hood.
Good morning, Bob. Good morning, guys. Good to see y'all again. Great to be here with you this morning. I always enjoy coming to this event. It's my favorite time of year. Usually it's cooling off. We wind up in hunting season pretty soon. So it's great to see a lot of friendly faces. You know, normally I get up here and I talk about issues that are happening in law enforcement and things that we're doing in the state, but this year it's a little different. You know, one thing I will mention is recently we reached an agreement with Equifax and a couple of the other two credit reporting agencies to correct how they were keeping their records. They were too busy making money than to go check back and make sure that they had the right debt to the right person. We started getting complaints from military people that couldn't get clearances, security clearances and things of that nature because they had them confused with someone else on their credit report. And other people that couldn't get their credit fixed if they paid off a judgment, for example. They wouldn't go back and check behind themselves. And if you got somebody on the phone and got it fixed, then you had to deal with the other two. And so it's a good settlement. We think it'll help Mississippians go forward to have better access to credit and have a clear understanding as to what their credit rating is. And so they have a free capability for 3 years to go get their credit checked. We're continuing to do all the things on cybercrime that we do. We're protecting our elderly, working in our office. But this past legislative session, you know, the legislature threw me in the mix of having to defend a lot of bills that didn't do a lot for Mississippians. We ended up with some of those social bills that were pretty clear that, as the court ruled in the district court case in House Bill 1523, that it was unconstitutional. And, you know, those issues, the legislature spent a lot of time on those. Just last week, a district court threw out the Planned Parenthood bill. You know, and the legislature fought tooth and nail over those bills and whether they were constitutional when they had originally passed them. And they failed to do the easy stuff, like building highways. Like MEC walked over there and handed them a silver platter here's what you need to do to build more highways, or at least just fix what we had. That's what the MEC was asking for, and I have never seen MEC put this full force behind an issue like that, and it didn't work out. I appreciate the labors of MEC and Mr. Sanderson, and I know they're going back this year, and hopefully they'll patch up that situation. But that was the easiest fix that we had, of spreading out that tax. Everybody wants to fix our highways because they are decaying. I travel them all the time. That is one of the first things that you do and that government should be doing, is fixing those highways so that we can have more commerce. This day and time, unless you've got a 4-lane highway, it's going to be hard put to cite any new manufacturing in your area. That's just simple math. I don't understand how they failed to do that. But they failed miserably on that, so I hope that you will be back this next legislative session to work on that. Now, what does that also do for our economy? It gets our economy going. You know, in some areas like Starkville, Columbus, because of technology, it's come around. My part of the hills up there around Tupelo, it's been slow because of the furniture industry hadn't kicked back in. Other parts of southwest Mississippi, the coast, it's just intermittent as far as our economy. We don't have our revenues up, but when people are building highways, working people are swinging hammers, that's when the economy floats. You know, they say these tax cuts are supposed to raise the economy, build the economy. Well, it hadn't. We've fallen flat. Our revenues are the lowest since 2010 here in the state coffers. And that's why we're having all these cuts in government and government services and having all these problems. Then there's other areas that we ought to be working on in the legislature. Expanding Medicaid, for example. That's $11 billion, 11,000 jobs. That's people out building clinics. There again, it's people swinging hammers. It's people that working people that are making money, and they can buy fuel and they can go to buy things. That's how we spur our economy and get things moving. There's other areas that you people have been, I think, the Main Street merchants, the people in Mississippi, have been cheated on by out-of-state large international corporations. These tax cuts didn't help you. What we should have been working on was internet sales tax. I've been looking at what's been legal in other states that have been successful in dealing with a lot of these out-of-state corporations and how they're taking money from, like Reed's, where I've been shopping for years in Tupelo, Mississippi. They'll come in there and try on a North Face jacket, and then they'll walk out and order it over the internet to save 7%. That's not fair. They're paying taxes on the brick and mortar, ad valorem taxes, and they're paying sales taxes to the state. We're losing hundreds of millions of dollars to those, and that's a simple fix if we would get out there and do it. And I think our U.S. Supreme Court is going to uphold those tax issues. Many states have been successful at the Court of Appeals level. This is going to get to the United States Supreme Court, and we need to be in line to generate those revenues, because, you know, that's just a simple one that helps our Main Street merchants out there. Now, another issue that Mississippi could do, in addition to getting our economy rolling through building roads and building clinics, is to help with education. 20 years down the road, and MEC has been on the front line of this issue of pre-K education. That if we just did that, if you look at the studies, a child from age 3 to 5, their brain development is about 85% of their brain development occurs during that period. And simply by having someone read to them increases their vocabulary. It makes them ready for school. It's the cheapest bang for our buck to keep them out of the prisons later on, is just to spend the money. It's $165 million a year to implement pre-K in Mississippi. If Mississippi is going to come off the bottom of the economic and educational rung on the ladder, that is what it's going to take for us to make a change in our state, is funding pre-K education. Now, you know we can't go back to the well and get into these taxes that have been given out over the past few years. You've got to find a revenue source. You can't pass that through this legislature, any kind of revenue bill. And that's why the road tax bill was killed. But the only way that I could see that's available to us is something like the lottery. Now, us Baptists, you know, we don't, my daddy went to Mississippi College and my mama went to Blue Mountain, and, you know, we don't drink, we don't dance, we don't smoke, we don't lie, and we don't gamble. But I'm going to tell you this, you know, a lottery, under some estimates, would generate about $160 million a year. That's $5 million short. Now, it probably is less than that, but at least that would be something that's easy. We could go fix. And there are things that this legislature could fix. But no, they're not listening to anybody that are out here working in business. I think you're going to have to come in force to this legislature to make some changes in this next legislative session. Now, they've gotten in such a fight over there, I'm not sure they're going to listen. I'm an eternal optimist, but they have gotten their deficit in such a situation of how much that when they swept all these budgets, all these funds from all these state agencies, that was an attempt to cover up the fact that they have a deficit. And it's going to be at least $130 million deficit is what they're looking at. So they're going to have to raise revenue, and when they couldn't raise revenue for the most basic, supported across the board issue that was at the legislature last year, that of fixing our highways, I'm not sure they're going to be able to come back and patch that issue up. I just hope that they do. But if you folks who are here don't come in full force, that's the best that we got of funding our highways and doing some things that will spur our economy and get our economy rolling for everybody. Not just the working people, but for the businesses and wealthy people as well. That's how it's done. It's very simple. It's just math. You folks in the business world know that. Now, I stay off over in my realm of protecting the people and protecting our budgets and litigation, and try to conserve and keep as much revenue from flowing out to lawyers on the other side as I can. But when they pass these social issues and we lose, guess what? Guess who has to pay the other side's legal bills? For New York lawyers at $400 an hour. Us taxpayers do. And that's one of the things that I've really fought for, to ask the legislature if they're going to get over there and pass some of these bills. You know, they passed a religious liberties bill in 2014 that was where the line was, where our religious liberties were. But then he went for a victory lap and passed this last one. So I encourage you to also talk to them about some of these issues and make them think rather than pandering for politics. Pandering to people when they know the law won't allow them to do these things. They got a duty to protect our coffers, and that's what I've tried to do as Attorney General, and protect the people. I want to thank you who have always supported us and hadn't, for giving me the opportunity to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. You know, I think there's no greater job for an Attorney General than to fight for people who can't fight for themselves, and that's what I've tried to do. I've loved doing it for 13 years. I've loved being here with you for 14 years now, since I've been speaking to MEC. You're a wonderful group. You do a lot of good for our state. Thank you for being here. God bless you.
Thank you, General Hood. We appreciate you being with us today. Now, our next speaker is from Vicksburg, so I figured it'd be appropriate to have a couple of bicentennial facts that many of you may already know, but I think it's interesting to bring back up. In 1894, Coca-Cola was first bottled by Joseph A. Biederharn in Vicksburg at Biederharn's Candy Store. But then, it wasn't much longer after that. In 1884, shoes were first sold in pairs and in boxes at the Phil Gilbert's Shoe Parlor in Vicksburg. So just something else to think about of all the kind of cool things that are happening in Mississippi through the last 200 years. As I said, our next speaker is Secretary of State Delbert Hosemann. And in his time as Secretary of State, he has really been an advocate for changing Mississippi's business laws in order to make Mississippi one of the most competitive states for attracting economic development. He's created one of the most user-friendly business tools available today with the creation of the Y'all Business website. This allows you to search information down to the street level to find out what it is that you need to do to expand and grow your business right here in Mississippi. During his time in office, he's led the way on creating incentives to encourage private investment in research and development at our universities. He's also pushed for major changes when it comes to helping companies locate headquarters here in Mississippi. He's now serving in his third term. Please join me in welcoming Secretary of State Delbert Hosemann.
Hey, y'all. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Proud to be from Vicksburg, Mississippi, and he's right. Scott's right. The first shoes were paired there. Unfortunately, my wife accuses me of having two left feet at all times, so it hadn't gone very well for me. First, good morning, everybody. It's good to be back with all of y'all, and it's good to be here with Mississippi's business leaders. who not only talk about economic development, y'all actually hire people. You put Mississippians to work. Job creation starts in this room. Job creation starts with you. This past year, we've been real busy, and I want to cover some of the things that we did this past year. First of all, we regulated security dealers. We returned hundreds of parcels of tax-forfeited property to the tax rolls. We increased the amount of taxes that were received back by communities. We increased penalties for voter fraud. We proposed campaign finance reform this year. And we also lowered the cost for all Mississippi businesses by making our office the most business technology-friendly office in the country. The best Secretary of State for filing online anywhere is in Mississippi. People need to realize that, and Blake was just complimenting me on the fact that everything's electronic. It holds your costs down. It holds the amount of time you have to spend on dealing with the government, and we're proud of that. But we're not too busy to do one other thing. That was develop y'all business. If you haven't looked at y'all business, and you're behind in the Mississippi business world. Y'all business, we aggregated 21 metropolitan areas in Mississippi and 82 counties. All that information was put in one site. Our site now gets 12 million hits a year. For y'all business, we get 70,000 page views just since we opened it up last year. People are thinking about investing in Mississippi. People from all over the United States, and in fact, all over the world go on our website. Much like you do on your business, we start by selling Mississippi. And we do that by selling our culture and our people. That's an easy sell for Mississippi. We provide census data on this site for population, age, income levels. We do the quality of schools, transportation. We look at contact information for each county, economic development authorities. We look at thousands of pieces of detailed information about Mississippi. Y'all business is a site for business, particularly small businesses in Mississippi. Because you know, as I know, that when you're armed with the appropriate business information like we give you with y'all business, you'll make a profitable business decision, as you should. That's why, in addition to that, y'all businesses has something nobody else has. We have consumer data, and we can tell you what your per capita income level is somewhere. We can tell you what your real estate levels are. We can tell you what your schools do. We can tell you how many men and women buy clothes, and by the way, men spend more on clothes than women do. Sorry about that, guys. I think it's hunting stuff. In any event, we can tell you how many people buy bottled water, and we can tell you how many people bought on the internet. We can tell you how many people buy used automobile parts, and it's all on the internet, and it's all free. It's free to you. You just have to open it and look at it. I know that Mississippi businesses can compete with the rest of the world. We're in a worldwide economy, and our competition is not only around the corner, it's over the ocean. It's all through the whole United States of America. Lastly, I want to talk to you about one other thing about Mississippi on November the 8th. I want to make, in this presidential election, I want to make one thing abundantly clear. Mississippi's election is not going to be rigged. If you go and look on election day, there'll be 10,000 Mississippians out working in all these polling booths. They've all been trained. We instituted a constitutional voter ID in Mississippi. Therefore, in Mississippi, we don't have dead people voting anymore. It's not rigged. But not in Mississippi. We have provided 5,300 individuals with voter IDs in Mississippi. We didn't disenfranchise anybody. We enfranchised Mississippi voters to come and cast their ballot by having an ID issued by the state of Mississippi. We welcome people here. There's 7,000 voting machines out there. And despite what you may hear on Fox or any of these other ones, none of those are controlled by the Russians. We control them all in the precincts. They're not connected to the internet. There'll be no hacking in Mississippi of the voter election for President of the United States. 82 circuit clerks, 410 election commissioners, and 10,000 people hard at work on putting up your presidential election. Our office will be in 40 different counties. We're no further than an hour away from any precinct in Mississippi. Y'all should be assured we're going to be vigilant in this election. There are attempts to get your information, and I'm not going to dodge that. In the last month, we've had over 5,000 attempts to penetrate the statewide election management system that keeps your personal data. It keeps your information about who you are, where you are, birth date, last 4 digits, or your social security number. We fight that battle every day. Other states have had problems with it, but not Mississippi. It'll be right on election day. We continue to fight for your information and for your personal information. Last thing I want to tell y'all, voting for President of the United States is not optional on November the 8th. It shouldn't be optional. One of those candidates is your choice. You have to go and cast your ballot and make your choice. On November the 8th, if you will remember, there are many men and women of the armed forces that will be getting up that morning, and they'll be fighting to protect your right to get in your truck and go down the road in 10 minutes and cast your ballot. Some of them may not even be alive when you cast your ballot and when we count them. You owe it to them. Don't let them down. Don't let people who are defending your right to cast a ballot down. You go vote. I want to thank y'all for having me today, and also don't forget to bring your ID. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this time, we have a very special guest I want to bring up just to say a quick hello. Would y'all please join me in welcoming Congressman Greg Harper.
Thank you, Scott, and thanks so much to this group and all the people that you touch. And look, there's not a better place to live than Mississippi, not a better place to raise your family, and we've got great opportunities. So one of the things that I consider as my job is to make sure I'm an ambassador for the state of Mississippi. And you can sell Mississippi if you can get people here. They love it. People are nice here. We know what we want to do. We've got some great things going on. A good announcement this week. Raytheon, if they're awarded the Air Force contract next year, will build the Air Force trainers in Meridian, Mississippi. And I also want to give a shout out and a thank you to our speaker, Paul Ryan, because you may not know this, but the farm-raised catfish industry in this state and in this country was under serious attack because they were going to pull USDA from the inspection and put it to FDA where it really wouldn't get an inspection done. And Paul Ryan single-handedly stopped that train from happening, and I think saved the catfish industry in this state. Thank you very much. God bless you in Mississippi.
We're the Mississippi Economic Council. We're the State Chamber of Commerce. We're made up of business members throughout the state of Mississippi. We're really there to protect the business interest of our members as well as the business climate of the state of Mississippi as a whole. Our goal is to improve our economic competitiveness, our educational attainment, to make sure that we're using our resources properly. We have the type of infrastructure necessary to grow our economy and grow in ways of creating the types of jobs that our citizens can benefit from in the future.
What are we doing here today?
Today is our Hobnob, Mississippi. It's our 15th Hobnob, Mississippi, in fact, and it's really a wonderful event that allows everyone to come together and do just that, hobnob, which is mingle and visit, and that's what makes this such a fun event. But we also highlight it by having all of our statewide elected officials are invited to speak, and they'll be here today to do that. Plus, today we have a very special treat in that we have a special Red and Blue Mississippi panel with some political experts that really will kind of give us an outlook of what to expect in about a week and a half when people go to the polls here in Mississippi and across the nation for the presidential race.
During the event, you'll be talking about some of MEC's initiatives on a statewide basis. Tell us about some of those.
A couple of things that I want to talk about in terms of initiatives. One is our transportation initiative, our Accelerate Mississippi. In 2014, through Blueprint Mississippi, a task force was formed to look at our state's transportation infrastructure, what our needs are, how we go about preserving this system, and what we do to grow the economy through a strong transportation system. In 1987, the state legislator and other leaders across the state, spurred by the business community, created a major highway system with the 4-lane program that put a 4-lane highway within 30 miles of all Mississippians. That was important because it really started sparking economic development in all parts of the state. We have to preserve that system today, and I think that's the key. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. We also want to talk about our initiatives, such as our education programs, our Mississippi Scholars Program, which is designed to encourage students in high school to take a more rigorous course of study, which prepares them for the workforce or to move on to college, and our more recent Mississippi Scholars Tech Master Program, which focuses on career and technical opportunities, which are wonderful career opportunities for students to get into the career technical fields. And we have the training and ability today that we may not have had 10 years ago, and it's really something that will make us a stronger state and create more economic opportunities.
Tell us a little bit about the importance of business getting involved in the political system.
Well, we couldn't do this without businesses, and that's one of the reasons MEC in 1949 was formed, was to give businesses a voice at the state capitol. We needed to make sure that their issues were heard, that we have a climate that doesn't require a lot of, overburden with regulation. We have a fair tax climate. We have initiatives in place that want to make businesses want to stay here and grow their businesses and attract new businesses to the state. And that's really the major objective that MEC focuses on. And we know that all begins with education and workforce development so that we have that strong workforce, that skilled workforce, the jobs that are coming here.
Your reaction to everything that you've seen and heard through today's activities?
Oh, this is the best of one of the best events we do. We do numerous events, but this one just is a little more casual, laid back, a lot of fun because people come. They're able to, as I say, hobnob at Hobnob, Mississippi. They get to catch up with people. Folks from all over the state come in for this event, and it's really just a wonderful day.
If people have questions like more information about MEC, what should they do?
They could just simply go to our website, which is mec.ms. mec.ms. Real simple.